Try to let them finish.
No, I did not go to school for 4 years and build a platform to be talked to like this. So I will be walking away from the microphone right now, and I would encourage you to get your guest under control. I'm going to take 2 minutes so you can ask him questions if you'd like, and I will be right back.
Because you run the show?
I just won't be back. And
I don't give a shit.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today's video is a total roller coaster. We've got Andrew Wilson going head-to-head with a feminist who wants equality, but only when it works in her favor. Seriously, talk about selective equality, right? Now, we've all heard the arguments before, but Andrew isn't holding back this time. He's calling out the hypocrisy, exposing the double standards, and getting right to the heart of the issue. You don't want to miss this one, trust me.
And I hope to debunk some of the myths that people think about feminists today and show that it is a very important cause, not just globally, but in the US and in the West. Thank you.
All right, Kylie, thank you very much for your opening statement. Andrew, if you'd like to give yours now.
Yeah, just a second. Let me back up here. There's one thing I wanted to address right in my opening. I've been going through Kylie's videos, and she knows so much which is not so. This is a big bait and switch. This happens often. I think I pointed this out to the Whatever podcast many times, especially when it comes to sociology and psychology, how often they are wrong, and here's how they're wrong most often. What they do is they take studies which are recently published, they point to those data sets and say, because this is right now the most current data set we have, it's true, and then operate as though those things are in reality true when they're not. Kinsey says, for instance, on gender quotas, according to, and she cites this, and many feminists cite this.
My name is, are you talking about?
The Kinsey study.
Kinsey study.
Yeah, the Kinsey study, which you cite, right? And most feminists cite the Kinsey study, has been debunked for years. I don't know why
Which
feminists
study is
continue.
this?
Hang on. Wait, it's my opening statement.
You'll have a chance to cross-examine him. Just allow him to finish his
let me walk you through this.
So she's here to debunk myths about feminism? Girl, the biggest myth is that it's still needed in 2025. You got freedom, rights, OnlyFans, and corporate quotas. What else do you want? A participation trophy for breathing? Then Andrew jumps in with actual facts, calls out fake studies and that garbage Kinsey report feminists love quoting. And boom, they try to cut him off. Of course. This ain't a debate. It's a TED Talk with feelings. Welcome to modern feminism. No logic, just vibes.
Earlier this week, journalist Christopher Brunette flagged a paper in a March 2024 issue of Econ Journal Watch, a biannual publication edited by George Mason economist Daniel Klein, that publishes articles, links, responses to other economist errors. The paper, written by accounting professor Jeremiah Green of Texas A&M and John R.M. Hand of the University of North Carolina, addressed the first of three McKinsey four-installment series of diversity studies. Green and Hand sought to test the replicability of McKinsey's findings. Guess what they found, guys? Could another set of researchers using the same data come to the same conclusions? Since McKinsey refused to turn over its numbers, Green and Hand had to reverse engineer the firm's 2015, 18, and 20 data sets. The results were startling. Green and Hand couldn't replicate the results of McKinsey's first three studies, which monitored the profitability of the executive demographics of an undisclosed group of S&P 500 firms claiming to have found a positive correlation between diverse leadership and the firm's performance. We do not find a statistical significant positive correlation between McKinsey's measures of the racial ethnic diversity of executive terms of firms as measured in December 2019, Green and Hand reported, and either the likelihood of financial outperformance in 15-19. So, to give you a quick summary, the study seems to show its most likely correlation and not causation, meaning companies were already doing very financially well, and they have the luxury to mess around with diversity quotas and initiatives. In addition, the data from the 2024 paper was unable to replicate any of the older McKinsey studies, any of them. That should tell you something. So that's a very recent data set, right? Why don't any of the psychologists ever go with the recent data set? Well, the reason they don't go with it is because it doesn't affirm their nonsensical worldviews. That's why they don't go with them, ever. You'll find this very common in sociology and in psychology, which suffer from the replication crisis. Somewhere around 60% of their findings cannot be replicated, are not to be trusted. Psychology is the study of the mind. The scientific views of psychology are only done through data collection, but it has to be interpreted. This is a major, major problem. So many feminists will tell you so many studies, and luckily I have all of the ones to refute all of my opponent's studies today. Because what happens is they have a biased worldview and they want the data set to correlate with the worldview rather than wanting to tell you what the actual truth is. The truth is that a bunch of S&P 500 companies who are very rich were already doing really well. And for the purposes of publicity, they decided that they were going to start doing a bunch of DEI hires and ethnic hires and this type of thing. And they decided that the correlation, they made the correlation causation error. That's it. You'll find this over and over again, I'm sure, as we go through this debate, as we go through the numbers, especially when it comes to the abuse of women, especially when it comes to just how useful women are. We talk about domesticated labor. What a joke. You believe that women should be paid some type of domestic wage. However, it's skilled labor in the home, which keeps the home running. It's always going to be paid way more than domestic labor because it's more worthwhile than domestic labor. Simple. So with that, I'll finish my opening statement. I can't wait to dive right into this.
So let me get this straight. McKinsey dropped all these diversity makes us richer studies, and when real professors tried to replicate them, nothing, nada, couldn't even get close. Turns out these companies were already making money. Then they slapped some DEI hires on top and said, look, diversity works. That's like eating a steak, then giving credit to the salad. Andrew's not just cooking here. He's serving a full buffet of reality. And the feminists, still hungry for fake stats that match their feelings. And oh boy, domestic labor. They want paychecks for folding laundry while the dude's out building society. This is where the delusion goes full throttle. Moral of the story, you can't cherry pick data to match your ideology unless you work in sociology, psychology, or apparently McKinsey.
Okay, so Kylie, it sounded like you maybe had some pushback you wanted to give on something Andrew said there.
Yeah, so I very briefly referenced the McKinsey study, and McKinsey & Company's Women in the Workplace study, by the way, is what he's referring to. But it's actually, if you go and look it up, it's generally considered accurate and comprehensive in its findings. So I have quite literally no idea what my opponent is talking about, as well as the fact that this is a red herring fallacy of just, oh, this is wrong and my opponent is wrong for the following reasons.
How's that a red herring?
Because you're not actually acknowledging any of the information that I said.
I refuted the information.
I didn't even hardly talk about that.
I have refutations to your video. Okay. I have your video right here. And you start by saying the largest comprehensive study, the Kinsey study.
Which one are you talking about?
I'll play it for you. Give me a second here.
Okay. Well, I think we should stick to what we're talking about today.
We're talking about all of this today. So
well, I would like you to be less hostile to me, first of all, because I think we should just have a general discussion.
Stop whining. We're doing a debate.
Stop whining.
So
I'm not going to give you the reaction that I know you're looking for.
Yeah. So women are better leaders than most. You agree?
Yes. I was looking at that video. Yeah.
So let me get this straight. Kylie brings up the McKinsey study again like it's the holy Bible of feminist data, even after it got body slammed in part 2. Ma'am, the study can't even replicate itself. You're quoting expired milk. And now she's crying about hostility? It's a debate, not a brunch. You show up with claims, you get hit with facts. That's how it works. She pulls the classic feminist dodge. Can we stick to what I want to talk about, please? Nope, this ain't the view. You don't get to control the convo just because your points are falling apart. Also, women are better leaders? Based on what? TikTok vibes and astrology signs? Every time she gets cornered, she reaches for platitudes instead of proof.
Yeah.
That's like one of the ones that...
And you cite which study?
Oh, yeah, the one that I'm talking about now. But I didn't reference that in my opening at all. So I think the people in the audience, if they had any sort of common sense following along, they'd be like, what is he talking about? Kylie didn't mention that, which I didn't.
But the thing is like this is a current core part of your worldview and belief, and you make propaganda videos about it, even though it's completely uninformed.
That women are better leaders. I think that is a subjective opinion. None of the statistics and facts that I gave previously are objective opinions. Like the fact that women didn't have the right to vote until 1920. Women couldn't open a bank account in the United States until 1974.
When did men get the right to vote?
Oh, we're back to the you didn't mention it card. Classic move. When your argument starts falling apart, just throw a curveball like, well, she didn't talk about it, so it's not valid. Newsflash, that's not how debates work. You can't just shift the goalpost because your sources are crumbling like a cheap IKEA bookshelf. And now we're bringing up propaganda videos? Oh, the irony! You're literally giving us a lecture on facts while pulling out the women are better leaders card with zero actual proof. Is there a study in the world that could prove that? Because last time I checked, leadership isn't based on your chromosomes. It's about results. Hold up, though. 1920 for voting rights? Wow, thank you for the history lesson. But let me hit you with a quick reality check. Gender equality doesn't mean women win every leadership contest. It means equal opportunity. And if we're talking about real power moves, let's not forget men have been dominating the corporate world for centuries. So how about we focus on leadership skills instead of history class?
Okay, I know this is exactly what you were talking about. This is what you're known for, is like getting people on a technicality that we don't historically know. But the answer to that is no. The answer to that
The answer is that's no?
No, the answer to that is the fact that in 1920, everyone was given the right to vote, but there were still barriers to vote for people of color.
When did men get the right to vote?
The right to vote was guaranteed to all people in 1920, according to the 19th Amendment.
Before 1920, were all men allowed to vote?
No.
Okay, great.
They weren't.
And then even when men's
because
suffrage
of white
was passed,
supremacy and because our system was not founded equally.
Are you aware that men only got any rights to vote about a decade, roughly, before women?
That is not true. Men have been the founding fathers were all men, so I have no idea what you're talking
What
about.
does that have to do with the right to vote?
The right to vote was historically withheld from men of color. It was
It was also withheld from
Listen to
the
me.
general population.
Do not cut me off. Do not cut me off. I am in the middle of speaking.
I don't care if you're in the middle of speaking. You're in the middle of a debate.
The right to vote.
You don't have your TikTok mute button, sweetheart?
I will not be speaking anymore until you have a conversation with him.
Well, look,
mute button.
If we can, for both people, if we can allow each other to finish, even if you want to jump in, just let the other person finish speaking. If somebody's going on a monologue and they're filibustering, I'll try to get them to wrap up, but just if they're making a point, just try to let them finish.
No, I did not go to school for 4 years and build a platform to be talked to like this. So I will be walking away from the microphone right now, and I would encourage you to get your guest under control. I'm going to take 2 minutes so you can ask him questions if you'd like, and I will be right back.
Because you run the show?
I just won't be back. And we already
I don't give a shit. What do I care? I'm here to have a debate, not listen to your whining. Do you want to have a debate or not?
All right, I'm not going to be talked to like this.
Well, do you want to just take a little 2-minute breather? You want to take a 2-minute breather?
This is feminism? You're the strong woman? You're the strong woman?
Oh, we've hit the I'm taking my ball and going home phase. Classic move when the facts aren't on your side, huh? Nothing like storming off to take 2 minutes. And here we go again with the history lesson. Sure, men have been fighting for voting rights, but this isn't the 1920s anymore, okay? Women were finally granted the right to vote, and now we're talking about barriers for people of color. Again, focusing on the past while we're here in the present where everyone should have equal rights. It's not a competition of who suffered more. It's about how we move forward. Also, gotta love how it went from the right to vote to the right to interrupt. Newsflash. No one's arguing against giving women rights, but we're talking about whether women are better leaders, and we still haven't seen any solid evidence, just a lot of history lessons and personal feelings. And of course, when the debate gets heated and you're losing, what do? Walk away. Real smooth move. It's almost like you're trying to avoid being held accountable for the nonsense you just spouted. It's almost like this debate isn't about facts. It's more about who can yell the loudest. All right, folks, I think we've seen enough of this circus for today. This debate is a roller coaster, but it seems like we've hit the end of the ride for now. Thanks for sticking around and joining me for this intense and wild exchange. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more savage commentary, and drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you think. Catch you in the next one. Peace.